Explosions light up the night sky in Iran, painting the horizon with flashes of orange and red. The air is thick with tension, as the world watches a nation teeter on the edge of war. In these moments, the distant thunder of conflict feels both far away and uncomfortably close. A reminder of how quickly peace can shatter. On the ground, soldiers stand guard, their eyes scanning the darkness for threats. Military vehicles rumble through city streets, while civilians huddle in their homes, uncertain of what the next hour will bring. The fear is palpable, not just in Iran, but across the globe. Missiles streak through the night sky, leaving trails of fire and smoke. Chaos erupts in the war zone, with sirens blaring and families seeking shelter. The world holds its breath, knowing that every explosion could spark a wider conflict. In India, news anchors break into regular programming, their voices urgent as they report on the escalating conflict. Headlines flash across screens, warning of consequences that could ripple far beyond the Middle East. The sense of unease grows, as viewers realize that the impact is closer than they ever imagined. The shockwaves of war travel fast. A graphic on the news shows how a single conflict can send ripples across continents, affecting millions who have never set foot in the war zone. In Indian homes, families gather around televisions, their faces etched with worry, as they try to make sense of what this means for their future. At petrol stations across India, the effects are already being felt. Prices climb relentlessly, changing almost overnight. The cost of filling a tank becomes a daily concern, as people wonder how much higher it will go. The distant war has found its way into the lives of ordinary Indians, turning routine errands into moments of anxiety. A man on a scooter pulls up to the pump, his eyes fixed on the price board. He hesitates, calculating how much fuel he can afford today. The worry on his face is mirrored by others around him, each person silently adjusting their budgets, their plans, their hopes. Inside a family car, parents discuss their shrinking budget. Bills pile up on the dashboard, and every rupee spent on fuel means less for groceries, school fees, or savings. The children in the back seat sense the tension, their questions about weekend outings met with uncertain answers. At home, families gather around kitchen tables, reviewing bills and counting coins. The distant war is no longer just a story on the news. It's a shadow over their daily lives, a source of stress that seeps into every conversation and decision. In markets and on street corners, conversations shift. Where once people gossiped about celebrities or cricket, now they talk about the rising cost of vegetables, the price of bus tickets, and how to stretch their salaries just a little further. Every rupee is counted, every expense scrutinized. People cut back on small luxuries, postponing purchases, and rethinking plans. The uncertainty of tomorrow makes every decision feel heavier. The conflict in Iran isn't just a headline, it's a shadow over our household budgets, a constant reminder that global events can upend local lives in an instant. Newspapers and social media are filled with analysis and predictions, but for most, the reality is simple: life is getting harder. In business districts, workers watch the stock market tumble, worried about their jobs and savings. Economists warn of a bigger economic quake, one that could shake the foundations of our economy if the conflict drags on. Young professionals and students, once optimistic about their futures, now find their dreams clouded by uncertainty. Plans for travel, education, or starting a business are put on hold, as everyone waits to see what will happen next. Explosions in Tehran echo in Indian homes, a stark reminder of how interconnected our world has become. The images on TV are not just scenes from a distant land, they are warnings of how fragile our peace and prosperity truly are. On trains and at tea stalls, people scroll through news updates on their phones, sharing rumors and fears. The distant rumble of war is now an immediate concern, shaping conversations and decisions across the country. The question is no longer if the conflict will affect us, but how we will endure its impact. In every home, every market, and every workplace, the distant war has become a close and personal fear, one that challenges our resilience and unity as a nation. Why does a war in Iran shake the global economy? It's a question that goes far beyond the headlines and breaking news alerts. To understand the answer, we need to look at Iran's unique position in the world, a nation whose influence stretches far beyond its borders, touching the lives of billions of people every single day. Because Iran is a cornerstone of the world's energy supply. Its land is rich with oil, and its pipelines are vital arteries in the global energy network. Every barrel that leaves its soil powers factories, fuels cars, and keeps the lights on in homes from Asia to Europe and beyond. Its vast oil reserves fuel industries and cities worldwide. Imagine the scale: millions of barrels shipped every day, crossing oceans and borders, making modern life possible. When Iran's oil flows smoothly, economies thrive. But when that flow is threatened, the world feels the tremors instantly. When Iran is unstable, the world holds its breath. Markets react in real time, stock prices swing, currencies fluctuate, and investors scramble to predict what comes next. The uncertainty sends shockwaves through financial centers from New York to Mumbai. A conflict here risks pulling in neighboring oil giants, threatening the entire Middle East's energy output. The region is a tightly woven web of alliances and rivalries, and a spark in Iran can ignite tensions across borders, putting even more oil supplies at risk. The region is the world's petrol station. If it burns, everyone feels the heat. Fuel shortages, price spikes, and panic buying can ripple outwards, affecting everything from airline tickets to the cost of groceries. Iran's stability supports global trade and energy security. Every ship that leaves its ports, every pipeline that crosses its land, is a lifeline for economies around the globe. Disruption here means delays, shortages, and higher costs everywhere. If that pillar crumbles, the consequences ripple worldwide. Blackouts, inflation, and economic slowdowns can follow, touching lives in ways both big and small, reminding us how interconnected our world truly is. The fate of one nation is tied to the economic well-being of many, including us. From the stock exchange to the dinner table, what happens in Iran can shape our daily lives, our jobs, and our future. The price we pay for energy starts with what happens in Iran. Every time we fill our tanks or pay our electricity bills, we're connected to events unfolding thousands of kilometers away. A reminder that in today's world, no headline is ever just local. Picture the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway, just 21 miles wide at its narrowest point. This slender stretch of sea, nestled between the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman, is one of the most strategically significant maritime passages on Earth. Despite its modest width, it serves as the lifeline for the world's energy supply, a vital artery through which the pulse of global commerce flows. Every single day, nearly a third of the world's oil, over 20 million barrels, passes through this narrow channel. Massive oil tankers, some the length of skyscrapers, navigate these waters in a constant procession, carrying crude oil from the heart of the Middle East to markets across the globe. The sheer volume of energy that moves through here is staggering, making it the busiest oil transit choke point in the world. On one side of the strait lies Iran, with its rugged coastline and powerful navy. On the opposite shore are Oman and the United Arab Emirates, both heavily reliant on the safe passage of oil for their economies. This close proximity of rival nations adds a layer of tension to every ship that passes through. If this choke point were ever to close, even for a short time, it would be like a heart attack for the global economy. Oil prices would skyrocket overnight, and the ripple effects would be felt in every corner of the world, from gas stations to factories to financial markets. Tankers from Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, and other oil-rich nations have no other viable route to the open ocean. The geography of the region means that almost all their exports must squeeze through this narrow passage, making it a single point of failure for the world's energy supply. In times of tension or conflict, the risks multiply. Tankers must navigate not only the natural hazards of the sea, but also the threat of naval mines, drone attacks, and even direct military confrontation. Insurance costs for ships skyrocket, and the mere threat of violence can send shockwaves through global markets. If the danger becomes too great, many shipping companies would simply refuse to send their vessels through the strait. The flow of oil would grind to a halt, leaving importing nations scrambling for alternatives and sending energy prices soaring. There's no easy alternative. While some pipelines exist to bypass the strait, their capacity is limited and they can't come close to replacing the volume that moves by sea. The world remains deeply dependent on this vulnerable passage. The world's energy market, and, by extension the global economy, depends on the uninterrupted flow of oil through the Strait of Hormuz. Any disruption here would send shockwaves through stock markets, industries, and households everywhere. With Iran frequently at odds with its neighbors in the West, and military tensions often simmering just below the surface, the risk of conflict is higher than ever. Every maneuver, every military exercise, is watched with bated breath by governments and markets alike. The global economy stands on a knife's edge, balanced precariously on the fate of this narrow waterway. The Strait of Hormuz is not just a geographic feature, it's the heartbeat of the world's energy supply, and its vulnerability is a reminder of how interconnected and fragile our modern world truly is. For India, this crisis is an existential threat. We import over 85% of our crude oil, mostly from the Middle East. Our lifeline runs through the world's most volatile region. Oil tankers to India must pass through the Strait of Hormuz. In peacetime, proximity is an advantage. In war, it's a liability. Our economy, industries, and transport depend on this steady flow. A conflict could choke off our energy supply, leaving us gasping. Diversifying sources helps, but the Middle East remains indispensable. Disruption here means immediate, severe impact on India's energy security. The shockwaves won't be gentle, they'll be a tsunami. Our economic stability hangs in the balance. The first impact of war? Skyrocketing petrol prices. As global oil supply shrinks, crude prices could soar past $150 a barrel. Petrol and diesel in India will hit record highs. No government can fully shield us. The pain spreads. Higher transport costs mean everything gets more expensive. Vegetables, milk, clothes, electronics, prices rise across the board. Household budgets are squeezed, commutes and cooking cost more. Travel plans fade, replaced by worries about making ends meet. Industries face higher costs, risking job cuts and slower growth. The rupee weakens, imports get pricier, and inflation bites deeper. A war in Iran becomes a crisis at your dinner table and in your dreams. India isn't standing still. Diplomatically, we urge peace in the Middle East. At home, we're racing to cut our oil dependence. Massive solar and wind projects are underway. Energy we don't have to import. Electric vehicles are on the rise, reducing our need for petrol and diesel. We're diversifying oil sources and expanding strategic reserves. It's a race against time to build a more secure, sustainable energy future. The true cost of war is measured in human lives. Daily wage laborers lose work as costs rise. Families struggle to afford basics. Farmers pay more for diesel and fertilizer, but their incomes don't keep up. Women stretch household budgets, forced into tough choices. Millions of Indians working in the Middle East face job loss and danger. Remittances dry up, plunging families into crisis. The conflict's shadow falls on every home, every kitchen, every dream. It's not just economics, it's hunger, anxiety, and heartbreak. The war's impact is felt far from the battlefield. It's a national struggle, played out in the lives of ordinary Indians. In today's world, no nation is an island. A missile in the Middle East can raise prices in Mumbai. Global events shape our daily lives. There's no escaping their reach. The push for energy independence is now a national imperative. Renewables, electric mobility, and efficiency are keys to our future. Our prosperity depends on innovation and resilience. This is India's moment of truth, a test of will and vision. We must act boldly, support clean energy, and understand our global ties. By turning crisis into opportunity, we can build a stronger, self-reliant India. Our dreams should be powered by our own sun, wind, and spirit, not held hostage by distant wars.